Hello guys and welcome to my channel. In today's video I am going to be sharing with you how to draft a Princess Dart Bustier pattern in a very simple and easy way. If you're interested in learning something like this, keep on watching, and if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, share this video with your friends, and turn on your post notification bell so that when I update a new video you'll be the first to watch it. So without further ado, let's get straight into this tutorial. I'll be using this brown paper to draft my pattern. The first thing I'll do is go to the top of this paper and I'll rule out a straight line. This line will serve as my starting line as well as my shoulder line. Next, I'll go ahead and impute my vertical measurements. So I will first of all mark my bust point measurement. I am working with 11 inches. Then I will mark my half length measurement, that is 15 plus 1 inch for seam allowance, 16, and I will impute my under bust measurement, which is 14. So I'll just go and impute the same thing on the other side so that I can get a straight line when I am ruling. So that is my bust point, 14 inches my under bust, and 16 inches my half length. So I'll go ahead and use my ruler to rule out this line. The next thing I'm going to do is come to my shoulder line and I'll mark my neck width measurement. I'm using 3 inches, and for my neck depth I will mark 5 inches. Go ahead and use whatever measurement you want to use, and I'll connect it using my curved ruler like this. Next, I'll go to the shoulder line and impute my shoulder measurement. I am working with a shoulder of 15 inches. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, and I'm going to mark that down. From that point now, I am going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'll mark 1 inch down there and I'll connect it to my neckline. After connecting, the next thing is to impute our chest line. Okay, to get your chest line, you divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches to that. So for me, I got 7.5 inches, and I'll be marking that from that shoulder slope point. Okay, so I have marked my 7.5 inches, and next I am just going here to impute my shoulder measurement so that I will have a straight line when I am connecting. So now I will rule out a straight line like this, okay, and I'll go ahead and extend that line to form my chest line. So I'm just going to label out this line. This is my chest line, my bust point line, my under bust line, and my waistline. Coming to the armhole line, we'll find the midpoint. Half of 7.5 is about 3.75 inches. So I'll mark that point down and I'll go in by half an inch from that point. This will help us to create our armhole curve. So now I am going to the chest line and I'll impute a quarter of my bust measurement. 37 divided by 4 is 9.25. And now I will connect these points together to form my armhole using a curve. Next, I will come to my waistline and I'll impute my bust span measurement. I'm working with a bust span of 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I'll also impute that same measurement on my bust point line, and I'll connect it using a straight ruler. Now coming to this bust span line, I will mark half an inch on the waistline towards the center front. I'll also mark that same half an inch on the under bust line. On the other side of the line, I will mark 1 inch on the waistline, and I'll also mark 1 inch on the under bust line. This will form our dart. Okay. Now on the bust point line, I'll come down by half an inch and I'll also go up by half an inch. The reason I am doing this is to eliminate pointy ends. We don't want our bustier to be pointed and sharp. And next we will connect these points like this. So for this part I am using a straight ruler, and now to connect the under bust to that half inch mark, I'll just use a slight curve. Okay. To get the princess curve, what we need to do is measure out what we have around the armhole like this, and we'll divide that number by 2. So for me, I have 9 inches. 9 inches divided by 2 is 4.5, and I'll mark that down, and I'll connect that point to the bust point area using a curve. So placing the curved part of my ruler, I am going to connect that point on the armhole to the 1/2 inch above the bust points. Alright. After connecting, I will mark 1/2 inch on both sides of this point of this line like this, and I will connect it back to that same 1/2 inch point above the bust point line using a curve. Okay. Alright, so this is just me going ahead to blend that part out to make sure that it is not pointed at all. Next, we are going to be extending this part out. This is because if you measure what you have around these areas, you will see that one is longer than the other. Okay, I'm measuring this part out. I have about 12.5 inches, and now measuring this side out, I have about 11.5 inches. So that's like a 1 inch shortage. So we are going to go ahead and extend that 1 inch, that part by 1 inch, so that we don't have shortages when we are sewing. Okay, so I'll mark out 1 inch there, and I'll connect it back using a slight curve. Okay, and from that point I'll just connect it back to the armhole using my curved ruler. Next, I'll just shade out these areas indicating that we will not be using it. We'll be cutting this part out. Okay, we won't need it in this our pattern. Now we will impute our horizontal measurements. Coming to my waist area, I'm going to impute my waist measurement divided by 4, and that is 7.5 inches. Now remember this 1.5 inch dart that we marked out earlier for our bust dart. We will place that 1.5 inches. Okay, you have to replace it so that you don't have shortages. And I will now mark out 2.5 inches for my seam allowance. Feel free to use any seam allowance you want. Now going to my chest line, remember we already marked out 1/4 of our bust measurement. So this is me measuring out that dart to see how many I have. I think I have about 1/2 inch. And remember this 1 inch dart on the armhole area. So we are just going to add that, and I have a total of 1.5 inches. So now I'm also marking out 2.5 inches for seam allowance. So this is me extending the lines, and I'll connect the points like this. And after connecting, we'll just cut around these lines, and our front pattern is basically ready. After cutting, guys, this is what we have. Our front pattern is ready. It is very simple and easy to make. So what we are going to do now is draft the back pattern. Alright guys, for the back pattern, you can see I have marked out some lines. So this one I marked out 1.5 inches, which will serve as my zipper allowance, and I have also marked out my starting line, which is also my shoulder line. So the next thing I'll do now is impute my vertical measurements like I did for the front. So for the back, I will just be marking my bust point measurement, which is 11 inches, and 16 inches, which is my half length. I'll duplicate this measurement on this other side like this. Okay, and I'll rule out these lines using my straight ruler. We are going to be marking our measurements from this line, which is now our center back line. So coming to the shoulder line, I will mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, the same thing we used for the front. But for the neck depth, I'll be using 8 inches. This is because I want this to be a V neckline. Go ahead and use whatever neckline you want. You can come down by 1 inch, 2 inch, make it round, make it square, whatever you want. So this is me connecting this my neckline to get my V. So now I'm just going to go ahead and mark my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5. 15 divided by 2, 7.5, and I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and connect that to the neckline. Okay, now we'll also come down by that 7.5 inches like we did for the front to get our chest line. So I'm just going to measure out my shoulder measurement there to make sure that we have a straight line when we are connecting, and I'll connect like this and also extend that line to form my chest line. And I'll also go ahead and label this back pattern. Okay, that is my bust point line and this is my waistline. Okay, and I'm also going ahead to indicate that this is my zipper allowance. So now we are just going to find the midpoint of this line like we did for the front, and we'll mark that down. And I'll also impute 1/4 of my bust measurement, which is 9.25, and I'll just connect these 2 points like this, only these 2 points. After connecting, we'll now impute our back dart. So I'm marking 3 inches, which is half of my bust span measurement on the waistline, and I'll also mark that same 3 inches up here. Now to get the length of this dart, okay, I'm just going to go above my bust line by 1 inch and I'll mark that. Okay, so that is the length of my dart. Okay, so now I am going to use a straight ruler to connect these points. Next, I'll mark half an inch on both sides of this line, and I'll connect it to that 1 inch point above the bust line, and our dart is ready for the back. We can now impute our horizontal measurements. 1/4 of my waist measurement is 7.5 inches, and I'm replacing that 1 inch for the dart and adding 2.5 inches for seam allowance. Going to the chest line, I will add my 2.5 inches for seam allowance, and this is me extending these lines and connecting my points. Okay, after doing this, I'll just go ahead and label this my pattern. I'll just indicate that this is my waist and this is my bust point. So now we'll go to this waist area, okay, and we'll mark half an inch inward. Okay, half inch like that inward, and we will connect it to meet our neckline where my V neckline ends. This is just to help me eliminate zip puckering. We don't want some folds at the back of our dress. So now from that half an inch that we marked inwards, I will mark 1 inch outward. Okay, so this is now my zipper allowance. I'll also come to this point and I'll mark 1 inch outward, and when I connect it, this is my zipper allowance. As you can see, it is slanted. It will help us eliminate zip puckering. So I'll just take my scissors and cut around these lines. And after cutting, guys, this is what we have. Our back pattern is ready. Okay guys, I have just gone into drawing my green line for the front and for the back, and I wrote down my annotations indicating which pattern is the back and the front. I indicated my size, the name for this pattern. I indicated my center back, how many pieces I should cut. This just helps me to know which pattern is for who, and what to do with these patterns. So guys, as you can see, it's very easy and simple to draft a Princess Dart Bustier. So this is it guys, how to draft a Princess Dart Bustier pattern. If you found this video helpful in any way, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not yet subscribed. Like this video so that more people can get to see it. Drop your questions and your suggestions in the comment section, and turn on your post notification bell so that you will never miss an exciting tutorial. So till I see you again next week, bye guys.